Hey there, and welcome to today's Explainer. Right now, we're diving into a truly beautiful, honestly kind of mind-blowing metaphor from our source material. We're going to unpack this deeply poetic idea of the spiritual taproot. There's absolutely no rush here today, okay? We're just taking a calm, unhurried look at an ancient text that has some literally game-changing implications for anyone who's ever felt that weird, restless ache inside.
So let's just jump right in with a pretty provocative question. What if your hunger is itself the search? Seriously, think about it. If you've ever felt this quiet, nagging ache for something more, maybe an unexplained restlessness late at night, or suddenly feeling totally dissatisfied while just doom scrolling on your phone, well, our source suggests you really shouldn't view that as a failure. It's not a lack of something. What if that very feeling of inadequacy is actually the search actively happening right inside you?
The text reveals a pretty amazing secret here. It says a taproot went down first, long before the hunger you finally noticed just last week. The author's core premise is that the divine actually initiated this search. Before you even reached for that unfamiliar quiet, a root was already deepening into soil you didn't even know you had. It's almost like you're simply the last person in the room to notice this green shoot finally breaking the surface. Okay, let's get into the specifics because the text is incredibly direct about who this message is for. And honestly, it covers a lot of ground. Maybe you're the one who walked away years ago. Or maybe you're the one who grew up with all the right words, you know every song by heart, but you just suddenly feel completely empty. Then there's the guy watching videos who literally doesn't know how to pray, or the young woman totally freezing up at the formal language in her Bible app. Even an older person carrying this heavy, secret fear that they just won't be welcomed back. The crucial point here is that whatever your background is, the source is speaking directly to you, validating exactly where you are right this second.
Moving into Section 1, we're talking about the compacted earth, which is all about reframing our religious baggage.
Look, if you're on the spiritual search, chances are you're carrying some past baggage. We all do, right? The text calls this compacted earth. It's made up of obstacles, fears, and false rules. It's that fear of finally mustering the courage to reach out, only to be met with polite silence, or finding a closed door telling you you're too late. It's the totally relatable embarrassment of just being a beginner. It's the heavy burden of doubts that someone told you were wrong, which got shoved down and buried under shame. And honestly, maybe the heaviest burden of all, the completely false assumption that the success or failure of this whole search relies entirely on your own skills. So often, we are handed this completely counterfeit portrait of religion. You know the one. It's rigid, it's heavily supervised, it demands kneeling at perfect right angles, mastering specific syllables, and keeping up this flawless, tidy exterior. It's basically a performance. But our source insists that real seeking isn't a performance at all, not even close. It's a messy instinct. It's an unhurried exhale. It's showing up with a cracked heart and just letting that taproot naturally deepen toward the water.
And this leads to such a beautiful reframing of all that trauma. Check out this quote from the source. Compacted earth is what taproots were built for. Compacted earth is not the disqualification. I absolutely love this concept. All that resistance, the bad experiences, the deeply buried doubts, none of that disqualifies you. In fact, it's that very compacted earth that makes the inward deepening of the root necessary in the first place. It's a feature, not a bug.
All right, let's jump to Section 2, decoding the promise and looking at a voice in Babylon. To really grasp the promise our source is making, we kind of need to look at its original historical context. The words we're about to read were originally addressed to stranded exiles in Babylon. We're talking about people who had been displaced for so long they were literally giving their kids Babylonian names. They were seriously wondering if they'd been completely forgotten. But the source notes that the message they received, it wasn't a manual for cultural preservation, and it definitely wasn't a political strategy for escape. No, it was a deeply personal invitation for an interior return. The message was essentially, hey, come back to me inwardly. The physical land will wait. And that incredible historical invitation culminates in this very famous sentence from the ancient text of Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 13. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. Just let the weight of that sit with you for a second. It's an incredibly direct promise. So let's break this down word by word, exactly how our source material unpacks it.
First up, you will seek me. Pay attention to the grammar here, guys. It's future tense. This isn't a question, and it's definitely not just a wishful hope. The source really emphasizes that this is a statement of fact. The seeking was put on the calendar decades in advance. It was already written, already on its way to being lived, way before you felt that hunger surface just last week.
Next, look at this small but super mighty word, when. Notice it says when, not if. The crucial takeaway here is that this seeking was an entirely expected event. It's a premise literally embedded right into the design of your soul. As the source points out, there was no contingency plan for if you'd seek. The seeking is a given, because the hunger itself was planted by the one being sought in the first place.
Finally, we have all your hearts. Now, religious voices in the past might have used this phrase to, scare you a bit, whispering that it demands absolute perfection. But the text completely flips the script on this. All your heart simply means the whole actual heart you have right now, the cracked one, the bruised one, even the doubtful one. It means bringing the parts you'd honestly rather hide. And crucially, it means bringing a heart that is undivided from those worldly Babylonian substitutes. The distractions that might temporarily muffle the ache but can never, ever actually heal it.
Okay, moving on to Section 3, Small Steps to Water. Let's talk about some highly actionable seeking.
So, what does this all mean for us? How do we actually put this into practice? Well, the source offers a profoundly simple, totally tangible little sequence to help ground your search. Step 1. Draw a slow, unhurried breath. Step 2. Drop the single word root into your interior. You don't even need to say it out loud. Just let it fall into your thoughts. And step 3. Let the exhale run longer than the inhale. Why? Because so many of us constantly clutch and ask and then clutch some more, totally forgetting that real searching is built with an exhale too. An extended exhale is its own quiet little prayer. It's the moment your soul stops trying to force results out of the ground and just simply receives.
And what happens when you actually practice this? Look, a taproot takes time to hit groundwater, so we need to manage our expectations with a realistic timeline of small, incremental changes. Around your 10th attempt, your interior might appear completely unchanged. Totally normal. But somewhere near the 30th mark, that old nagging embarrassment about being a beginner loses a ton of its volume. By the 50th mark, you might catch yourself naturally speaking to the divine while just standing in the grocery store checkout line. And near the 100th turn, you'll suddenly realize that all this intense searching has quietly resolved into simply walking together.
Our source material also provides this beautifully tailored guidance depending on exactly where you are right now. For the returner, remember, the direction of your next step is literally the only thing measured, not the length of your absence. For the lurker, hanging out at the edges of belief, permission was never the obstacle, okay? Your hunger is your credential, and you absolutely belong here. If you're the app closer who gets easily overwhelmed, just start with one spoonful, one sentence. Don't try to swallow a whole chapter. And for the parent watching a child walk away, your job isn't to artificially engineer their hunger. Your job is to deepen your own root so your child can witness it being watered from across the room.
And that brings us to Section 4, the quiet returning, where we'll look at the signs of arrival.
So how do we actually know when the root has finally reached the surface? Well, the text points out that most of what happens underground eventually arrives with absolutely no trumpets at all. There's no big parade. It shows up in these super quiet, everyday ways. It might just be waking up with a small thank you exactly where a huge knot of dregs used to sit. Or maybe an old line of verse just randomly rising from nowhere on a Tuesday afternoon. Or simply slipping into sleep without endlessly rehearsing all the reasons you might not be welcome. These aren't just consolation prizes, guys. They are the deepening itself, surfacing exactly on schedule.
We're going to wrap up this explainer today with a deeply provocative thought straight from the source material. The seeking is the proof that I am already finding you. Really think about that. Your hunger is not some empty void. It is the living taproot itself. So, the next time you feel that quiet ache of restlessness late at night, are you going to try to numb it? Or will you finally let yourself exhale and recognize that the connection has already been made? Thanks so much for hanging out with me to explore this, and we'll see you next time.